Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel today. Now in today's video we are going to talk about why people are not buying video games as much anymore. Now there's a whole bunch of reasons for this. We're going to cover them all in today's video, and let's get started.
And we don't take it for granted. Being a free gunner means, well, you're free.
Right on target. Yeah, you better run.
Free gunners have a shot at making something of themselves. A chance to be someone.
All right.
Need a second to fix myself up.
Alright guys, now I have to put myself in this category. I don't buy many new video games anymore. The main factor for me is I don't have a lot of interest in a lot of the things that are coming out, and that's a discussion we'll have in this video. And also the price point is just getting too high for me. Can I afford to buy a new video game? Sure, I can. But here in Canada for a new release, you're looking at anywhere from $90 to $100 for a standard version. This is Xbox and PlayStation. Now the Nintendo Switch 2 prices are absolutely insane. You know, some of the Mario, Zelda type stuff, you're looking at $130 for a base game. I just don't see the value in it. It's just too much for me. I don't really want to pay that. And I think a lot of consumers, the price point is the main focus for them. You know, you have to understand $100 is a lot of money in today's economy, and people are just not going to willingly spend this, especially on an unknown title. Now, if you know you're buying a Mario game, you know what you're going to get. If you buy a Call of Duty game or Battlefield, you know what you're going to get, guys. There's no debating that. But a lot of the games that are not as well known, they're going to have a harder time justifying this price point. And I think in the long run, you're going to see a lot less AAA games coming out. Now, the amount of AAA games that are coming out presently has been declining. Studios are just not putting forth this much money. It's so risky. You've had lots of games that have come out in the past few years that have cost studios, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars. You know, Concord and Dragon Age are the big examples here, but there's tons of studios that put out stuff that break even or they make a little bit of money, you know, and sometimes they lose a lot of money. It's just the world we live in now. It's kind of like Hollywood movies, guys. There's no difference here. They're spending hundreds of million dollars on a product, and if they don't get enough sales on it, they really lose a lot of money. And I think what you're going to see down the road is a lot of these people are just not going to take the risks anymore and not make these games anymore. And that'll take us to the next part of the topic, is familiarity. Now, if you have a lot of new games coming out that you have no idea what they're about, mostly all you can do is go on YouTube and look for video game reviews. You can look for professional critic reviews and stuff, but I don't really trust those. So really, you are taking that $100 gamble on whether you like the game or not. However, if there are games that you have played before, or, you know, franchises that you still play, then you know what you're going to get. And a lot of people are just going back and playing the older library of games they have. They're not buying the new games. And I think that is a big driver of what's going on here. You know, people are creatures of habits. They go with what they know. I'm no different. Like, honestly, I'm still going back. I'm playing Oblivion. I play older Call of Duties. I play the older Fallouts, you know, Red Dead Redemption. Some of my favorite games, the old Dragon Age games. I just love those. You know, there's such a big back catalog of games to go back to. And when you're familiar with those games, you know what you're going to get. Everyone's short on time now. So if you have a limited amount of time, you want to play what you know you're going to like. Now that kind of jumps into the next part of this, is the back catalog of games gets bigger every year. The amount of games that go on sale get bigger every year. And, you know, if you're like me and you have Game Pass and you have, you know, a ton of video games, like I have tons in my garage, guys. If you see some of my older videos, I have a huge collection of, you know, everything from Sega to 360, Xbox One, Sony, PlayStation, you name it, I got it. So really, I could play all those games and never play a new game, and I would still never be able to play them all. And there's a lot of people that do have collections that they can simply just go back and play. And quite honestly, playing a lot of those older games, you get a much better experience. Now, I don't know if it's just because you're familiar with them or the games were just better back then. There was more creativity into them. I do believe that is part of the case. And a lot of the newer games are competing with this old nostalgia and familiarity. And a lot of the times they are just not going to win that battle, guys. You know how humans are. They go with what they know, and I'm no different. Now, we'll touch on this a bit. The economy is not good in most countries, guys. So that's a huge thing right there. You know, people are just not willing to spend money. I'm not going to spend a huge time on the economy. Everyone knows what's going on. And I don't want this video to be like doom and gloom and depressive. I want to do some more positive type stuff. So we'll jump right into the next part here. The industry is still growing revenue. Don't kid yourself. It's not collapsing. It's not going away. It does grow every year. But the revenue streams and what people are buying is continually changing. And you take yourself, for instance, you look at something like a Fortnite that does a little subscription thing. And these free-to-play games, some of them are so hugely popular. You have Warzone, like I mentioned, you have Fortnite, you have Apex. You know, there's countless amounts of these free-to-play games where really you don't have to pay anything to play them. Unless you're on like a console, you have to pay the monthly fee to get online or something. But when people have a choice between playing these games for free and having all of this content at their fingertips or paying $100 for something they may or may not like, given those options, a lot of the times people are cash strapped and stuff, they will just go with the free option. I have to admit, a lot of these games look really fun. I'm not particularly into them, but I see why they have a huge audience and why they continue to hold on to that audience. Another thing we have here is subscription services. Now, there's the much maligned Xbox Game Pass price hikes that have went on. In my opinion, it's a little pricey here in Canada. I think it's $34 for the top tier, and then you add tax. So you're in $40 a month, you know, so you're going to be almost $500 a year for that. Now, do you get the value out of it? At this point, I'm going to say yes. Right now, I'm playing Outer Worlds 2. I'm finishing that up. I'm playing Call of Duty. I do go back and play some older Bethesda games. I also played Oblivion. So if I was going to buy physical copies of those games, with taxes and everything, I would be probably $300 just for those 3 games. So what you are seeing is people just are refusing to pay for these new games. And if they do come out on Game Pass, they're more willing to pay a lower monthly subscription to have access to all these games. And I do think going forward, you're going to see a lot of subscription models. Now, do I think they're going to go balls in like the Game Pass for Microsoft? Probably not. They'll probably have hybrids, but I think Sony will step up their game with stuff too. And they're going to have to compete, because at some point people are just not going to spend this much on games anymore. And they're going to have to do subscriptions, which is really shitty because I personally like having physical copies. But at this point, I just can't justify the price on them. Now, a big problem is the actual games themselves are just not that good. The creativity has been lost to very large corporate studios that have a certain bottom line. They have timelines. They want to make as much money as possible, which is not a big deal. But when you have too many people with their hands in the jar working on these, they just come out to be it's hard to explain, but everything seems like it's a soulless, mass appeal, try not to offend anybody type experience. And that's just not what I'm looking for personally. I know some people probably don't care about this as much as I do, and I personally don't really care about it that much either. It's just what I'm seeing going on in the gaming industry. It's like these games don't have a target audience anymore. They're just trying to appeal to everybody. And that's unfortunate, because when this happens, the games lose their actual identity and they're just not something that's going to keep someone attached to them long term. For me, I could pop in, let's say, the original Red Dead Redemption, and I would still be so pumped to play it and go through all the missions. The game had character. I thought it was really well done, stuff like that. I don't really see that happening in new games. Now, I did play the Outer Worlds 2. Like I said, I'm finishing that up, guys. And it's a good game, but again, it's not one that I'm going to ever go back to play. It's not super captivating. It does remind me of a Fallout game, although a very lighter, hollower experience. Again, the game is okay. It's not great. It's not something I'm ever going to go back to and play again. And I have a feeling if I play the new Borderlands, which I plan to, that'll probably be the same experience. Hell, I might just say screw it with these new games and play the old stuff, guys. And I think a lot of people are just getting that way. They're getting sick of spending money on stuff that is definitely not worth the money. And you know, guys, people are simply just getting tired of being monetized. Like everything in our life, we're getting monetized. You know, you buy a car, you have to pay a subscription to remote start the car, or you have to pay a subscription for heated seats or to run an infotainment on new Toyotas, apparently, I heard. And so many games in the past 10 years that came out, like I said, they're just hyper monetized. They're trying to get as much money out of you daily, weekly, monthly as possible. And while these free to play game models are good in some aspects, where if you don't have any money, you can still play them, they definitely try to take advantage of people. The one thing I would make this akin to is gambling. With these Counter-Strike boxes, Call of Duty was doing it. So many of these companies were being so predatory, you know, get these digital loot boxes, you know, pay, you know, whatever and unlock them. Me personally, I've never been into gambling. There's no thrill in gambling for me. I really don't understand it. But it is very popular, you know, from sports betting, and betting on anything in general, horse racing. People love that adrenaline rush of gambling their money. I don't understand it. I always thought it was really stupid. No offense to you if you like gambling on loot boxes and all this stuff in video games. The gaming landscape is definitely changing, guys, whether we like it or not. Given the success of these AA studios and some indie games, you're going to see a lot less of these AAA games come out. There's just not as big of an appetite for it from the publisher side and from the consumer side. And as we keep going along here, we're going to see a lot more free-to-play stuff with monetization coming from subscriptions and from people buying stuff in-game. And that's just the way it's going to be. They need to make the games long-term to make more money and be more successful. We'll see where the road takes us on that. I'm not paying for these $100 games, guys, and unless you really, really want something, I would suggest you don't do that either. If you are liking the content, again, please like, comment, subscribe. I really appreciate all the support, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Have a good day. Peace.